Election Eve with This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update. My God, we've been talking about these races for at least a year and a half, some cases more. And now, here on the eve of election night in Missouri, we'll start the show off tomorrow night. Kelton, it is 12 o'clock. There is 12 more hours left in today. There is 12 more hours. That's 24. Then another 7, 31. 31 hours, the polls close. In 32 hours, election night in Missouri, right here. Wherever you're watching this at, come election night, join us. All the Missouri election results all night long. Let's get right into the show. Representative Aaron McMullen from Independence, which is not Kansas City, right?
Absolutely. It is
You
not.
know, the truth is, if Lee Summit people, they're from Kansas City, right? Raymore's, Kansas City. Raytown's a little bit its own, but it's Kansas City. Like North Kansas City, I know you may think you're not, but you're Kansas City. In the same way that, look, and I know Flat Doug, this is going to hurt your feelings, Afton is St. Louis. It just freaking is. I'm sorry. It's just St. Louis. If you're at St. Peter's, you're in St. Louis. Independence is independence.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the name in itself. We are very, so yeah, you're
If you
absolutely.
ever, if you want to piss off Victor Callahan, number one, breathe, convert oxygen to carbon dioxide. And further, if you want to piss off Victor, say Kansas City is independence, and you will. It will not be an enjoyable conversation.
Yeah, referring to independence as Little Kansas City is grounds for an immediate punch to the face around here.
Are
Sure.
you saying that your opponents believe that independence is Kansas City?
I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny that.
So you've got a race, barn burn of a race. You've served one term in the House. Your opponent ran a very competitive race last time down in the Lee Summit Senate District. He's now running up in the Independent State Senate District against you. What are you hearing on the doors?
We've got two issues that are first and foremost for Republican voters. Number one is the national issue of the border and immigration, which Governor Parsons took that by the helm, and we did a lot of good stuff this summer for that. And I thank him for sending troops down to the border. And then the next thing is we have a local issue that's probably the second most, which is kind of unusual, and that's the property tax debacle that we had last year. And a lot of people want to know about the lawsuit that AG Bailey's had. What are the implications? What's going to happen? And so a lot of people are watching that very, very closely, which I gather that will have a profound influence on the AG race, at least for Jackson County.
So let me let's break down a couple of things here. I remember when this started. You guys have a hired or appointed assessor. Is that correct?
Yes, ours is appointed. We're the only one I think that's left. Gail McCann.
Oh, did Gail come in and strike down McMullen?
Hold on, I'll get him back.
I see him back now. Let's look, Gail. That was McMullen talking, not me. Don't take that out on me. I didn't say Jackson County's property taxes are too high. I did say Cole counties are too high. That's a fact. I don't know how. I mean, Kelton.
I think we got him back.
I'll bring him back. If you think yours are bad, I mean, Gail must have took you out. That's kind of funny.
Right.
I'm putting respect on Gail's name so she doesn't end my feed. Coal counties are out of this freaking world. I mean, my God. Geez, they must gold plate those schools. The truth is, I think out there, what I saw happen that I'm surprised the legislature hasn't outlawed is so Jackson County hired a firm to say our property tax is too high or too low, but you know who paid the firm? The school
Right.
system.
That's
So
correct.
let me just guess. Listen, I don't have I got my United Electric Co-op Stein of Knowledge here, Yeti of Knowledge. Kelton, let me just give a guess here. If the school district pays someone to answer the question, is property taxes too high or too low? What in the hell do you think they say, Kelton?
I think they're going to say it's a little low.
I think they say it's a little low. Then they jacked you guys, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yeah, the consultant firm is Tyler Technologies. That's another name. If you mention out the doors, people spit on the ground. And yes, I had some constituents that their property taxes went upwards to 1,000%. That's the most extreme case.
Well, I tell you, it is. I know a lot of assessors. I know a lot of good assessors, but every assessor I know, there's two jerseys when you get elected assessor. You are the taxpayer's assessor, or you are the school district's assessor, and every office is 100% one or the other. There is no in between. You are either working for the taxpayers, or you're working for the school system. Why doesn't the legislature build a wall, a firewall, since it's campaign season, between the school districts and the assessors? Right now, school districts pay for computers for assessors. They pay for extra employees. What they're doing is simply fundraising off the taxpayers. At some point, either make the assessor just a school employee and call it what it is, or don't you have to build some kind of wall in there to keep schools from coming in and bribing these assessors?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we definitely saw the worst case scenario here in Jackson County, and we definitely need to.
Oh, Cornman would sell out Popper Bluff in an instant for, whatever he could bilk out of the taxpayers. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely.
So what else? What are you hearing about? Everybody talks about Trump. What are they saying about Trump and independence?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like some Trump. There are a few. You knock on a door every once in a while that they're not a fan of, but for the most part, overwhelmingly supportive. I definitely did see a shift in the attitude of the electorate after the assassination attempt.
Sure.
Pretty interesting. I'm still trying.
Fight.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to figure out what the end result would that be, but there was definitely a shift. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in the elections, especially primaries.
So break me down here. The mustache. That's what people want to know about. I'm getting text about the mustache. Tell me the story behind that glorious mustache you sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So COVID hit, and everybody grew out their COVID beards. And so I did the same. And I was going to a job interview later on, and I shaved the rest of my beard off, but then I left the mustache and it just kind of stuck around. So I've had it for about 3 years now. There wasn't any grand design about it. And when I first ran for office, people were like, "Oh, you should get rid of it. You shouldn't." It used to be that if you had facial hair, it would be a direct, 6 points or something if you had it. And I think we've kind of grown from that. I get a lot of really positive comments at the doors, especially.
Now, if you lose this race by 5 points now, everybody's going to point to the mustache.
They will. Yeah, I know. That's what I've thought about that a few times.
It really pisses me off. People like you and Kelton, they can grow these enormous beards. My beard grows in like an Amish woman's leg hair. It is just very fine and white and disgusting looking. And I can't do like the rugged beard thing because I can't. I'm looking at Kelton's beard right now. I mean, it is a glorious mane on the front of his face. Kelton, you want to pop the Kelton cam up? Oh, look at that beard. That sexy son of a bitch. I have nothing. I could not shave for a week, and it would barely tickle a baby's chin. So what else? Kansas City? Where the world's gonna go?
I mean, yeah.
Besides home in October.
Yeah. Well, hope springs eternal in Kansas City. You never know, right?
Well, there are Royals fans in Kansas City, and I know but I mean, once you get to Blue Springs, there's no more Royals fans, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. I actually was looking at a fan map one time, and there are actually more Royals fans outside of Missouri than there are in Missouri, which kind of shocked me. Royals fandom goes up into like Nebraska and that area, and there are way more.
God, they must suck in Nebraska.
Yeah. Well, how long has it been since you guys won the World Series again? I can't.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking. I mean, honestly, it's just terrible. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's horrific. It is truly horrific. What is happening? There's just no leadership. It's just listless. I look at that Cardinal club and I see some good ingredients, and maybe I'm just being a homer, but it feels like the whole isn't as good as the sum of its parts. The guys that they counted on aren't good. Some of the guys they didn't. Alex Burleson's been. Anyway, we didn't come here to talk about that, but you get me on a tangent. You can talk politics and never offend me. You can talk religion. I'm not going to get upset. But the Cardinals play on my heartstrings. So, what do you do the last day of the election?
So we'll go out. We'll knock some few more doors. It's kind of like candidate Prozac. Nothing like having people who are going to vote for you. Kind of calms the nerves a little bit. Then in the evening, basically everybody just goes out and puts. I got 42 different poll locations that I need to put signs up. No quantifiable evidence that actually pushes anybody towards your direction, but everybody does it anyway. So just that one last touch of name recognition.
Why
So
not?
got
Lyndon
this
Johnson said, "If you do everything, you can win." All right,
right.
give a prediction on your race. What's the margins in this thing going to be?
I would say probably anywhere between 15 to 20% is what I'm
What
thinking.
happened with the guy with your opponent having his church pay him? My
Yeah,
mother is actually a church secretary, has been for 30 years. I didn't think you could do that.
I was not aware that you could do that either. I know that I read the article and there are some serious concerns. And I think there are some people that are probably going to try to suss that out and figure out what happened.
I mean, it almost, if you're Robbie Sauls at this point, you're like, bring me on the guy that's cutting checks out of his church, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know how you survive that, but we'll see. Well,
So
season.
vote August 6th, right?
Yep.
I
Tomorrow.
just picked this up this morning. I was at an event at Farm Bureau. It was I believe we live streamed it here at MissouriTimes.com. It was, the interesting part was they wouldn't quit clapping. And if you've been in politics, you get an ovation, but this wasn't the clap. He hadn't even spoke yet when they introduced him. The ovation just didn't stop. It was incredible. It was a very passionate room for Kehoe, and Kehoe, Eigel has a lot of passion at his stops, right? You get a lot of the real angry kind of froth with the mouth people. This wasn't that crowd, but they just, by God, would not stop clapping for Mike Kehoe.
One of the hardest campaigners I've ever seen. It's been inspiring.
Jeez.
It's been really.
That thing at Blue Springs we were at last week was a big deal, or week before last.
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
he had tons of folks there.
Yeah, you go to those events, you almost feel like you're a piece of history, really. You know what I mean?
So tell me this: what do you do? What do you do like Wednesday?
Well, you have to go around, pick up your signs, make sure, and then you just decompress.
That sucks. Give me something fun.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. I'll probably go into a seven day coma. Maybe, definitely going to go probably on a vacation and decompress.
Yeah.
And then do it all over again in the general.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, Maggie and Jerry don't have primaries. So like David Gregory, that race, he has a full on hardcore primary, him and Harder. The winner then goes into a pretty big Senate race. But like you said, if Trump can stay decent, Chesterfield's probably gonna be okay. If Harris can stay decent, Maggie's got a good chance. You have an absolute. You literally have done this for however many months. You have to turn around and do this again.
Yeah. And especially because right now the door to door has been talking to Republican primary voters, so it's very easy. Now we're going to have to actually go to a different universe of swing voters, which is a very different universe all the way together, and it's going to take a lot more effort to try to get these swing voters to go your way. So it's going to be a lot more work in certain aspects, even though it's a smaller group of people.
Well, so now tell me, like, you've got it. Your wife has put up with all this crap all summer, ruined her entire summer. Where are you going to take her? Seriously, where is the dinner at tomorrow or Wednesday night? Where do you take her for dinner? Is it the Majestic? I love the Majestic.
Yeah, either that or Chop House or.
Ooh, good call.
Yeah.
Victor Callahan is still a legend at 801 at Capitol Grill.
Yeah.
Capitol Grill is the one.
Capitol Grill.
Yeah. If you go in there, I'm not kidding you. Mention Victor's name, and these ladies go nuts. It is. I was in there well after he hadn't been in there a lot in a long time, but I'm telling you, we go in there once to have a drink, and these ladies come unglued for Victor.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarre.
I believe it.
Aaron McMullen, thank you so much for making the time. We sure appreciate it. Let me ask you one last question. If you are going to when you get sworn in the Senate, you're going to bring your wife in. Where are you putting her up at?
Oh, definitely Courtyard by Marriott. It's
Hell yes.
the best
Man,
location.
man's on his game. And if you're up in the great Northwest touring Rusty Black's district, hop on United Fiber, some of the best Wi-Fi in all of rural broadband. They're going to be sponsoring our election night show. Aaron, I look forward to tomorrow night. I hope that Combest and I get to look into the camera and say, the winner of the Republican primary in the independent state Senate seat is Representative Aaron McMullen. Hope you get to say that tomorrow night.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Scott.
Good day. All right, busy election eve, and there is one guy that I love to break down races with. He's actually my in-house favorite because he just says it, and it's like he just gives you the answer. It's almost like filibustering with Mike Bernskatter because you can ask him like a 45-second question, and his answer's like, "Yeah, I think he was going to win." But it's like good stuff. It is so good to interview him. It's why I thought on our election eve, Kelton, tomorrow, I say we do one of these, right? Like noon. You guys want to have lunch with us tomorrow and do it at noon?
Sure.
Who are we going to get to join us?
Whoever you want.
Well, Whitey Herzog would be the answer to that. But let's bring in today. We just so you know, we will plan to do one of these tomorrow at noon. I don't think Combest will be. If Combest is in town by noon, we'll have him on. If not, you'll just have to see his charming, beautiful face at 8 p.m. Let's bring in now one of my favorite people to talk about races with, John Ratliff with Palm Strategies. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me on, Scott.
Is that John Ratliff or Kenny Wallace? I see like 3 logos happening there, all happening at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do my best part to get some advertising in.
All right, let's start this off. I thought, I'm a pretty jaded old German, I'll be honest with you. However, it was a little moving today at the Kehoe thing at Farm Bureau. People just wouldn't quit clapping. I mean, it wasn't like he gave this rousing speech and everybody just clapped because they loved it. He hadn't even spoke yet. They wouldn't even let him talk. I mean, they really wouldn't let Mike Kehoe get a word out. They just wanted to, it was almost a show of respect.
I think, there was a packed house, obviously, Farm Bureau's endorsed him, and it's a large facility, and there was really no room left for anyone because I think, especially here in central Missouri, but all across the state, farm families, business leaders, small business owner like myself, you realize that there's really no contest in this race. If you actually care about the future of the state of Missouri, if you care about agriculture, if you care about business, if you care about job growth, if you care about seeing Missouri at the top of the list and a way we can be proud of our state and not the bottom, then there's really only one person you can choose to be that person. That's Mike Kehoe. He proved that for the time he's been in the Senate. He proved that as our lieutenant governor. And I think there are a lot of, there are 2 other candidates in this race that I think are out there and some are working harder than others, but there is not a single candidate in any race that is working nearly as hard as Mike and Claudia. They have been everywhere nonstop. They are showing real Missourians that they actually care about you, whether you're in a big city or a small town. I guarantee you in the last 12, 15 months that Mike Kehoe has been in your small town as a guy who grew up on Table Rock Lake in a very small community. Mike's been down there a couple of times, and I think that shows you the kind of governor that he will be. And we're at a crossroads in our state right now, and I don't think there's a better person out there than Mike Kehoe to lead our state going forward.
All right, let me just this people that get the tip sheet. I'm always grateful for the response, even the ones that said this last one was sloppy. Yes, I did have a reelected and an elect. I appreciate folks emailing me. I do count on people like Kelton to fix that. But look, I'm not trying to toss shade on you for letting everyone down, Kelton. But whatevs.
I try my best.
Well, apparently there's some people that thought that was not good enough. I'm just being honest with you. This is what this actually sounds like when I write a tip sheet. I call somebody like John Ratliff. Oftentimes, I actually do call John Ratliff, and I ask him, "Okay, what does Kehoe have to do? What does Kehoe need to do to win? What if you're on election night, you're in the Kehoe room? What are you looking for?"
Well, I think if you looked around, is the polling, and there's a ton of polls out there. There's one poll I think gets getting put out quite a bit, and I don't know. I'm doing some tracking, but I think Mike has to secure his base in Southeast Missouri, Central Missouri. I think he's doing well in St. Louis even. I think this is a rural part of the state's definitely going to show up for Mike, and then it really comes down to what margins can we get out of Southwest Missouri? Can we hold our own down there? And then going into the Kansas City DMA, where it's a jump ball for pretty much anyone. And I think you've seen as is Mike going to continue to stay in the lead just from a pure political perspective in the Kansas City market is where the most of the undecideds kind of had been for a while. And I think he slowly has solidified them coming down to the end. I think of all the races you see across the state, and there are a lot of them, those of us in the business have seen massive amounts of undecideds. And the only race that doesn't have a ton of those undecideds is in the governor's race. And the little bit that's left over the last couple of days has finally started to break for Mike. And that's because he's been over there, and that message for the few that haven't seen the millions and millions of dollars of ads being spent on TV, they've probably seen Mike Kehoe. He's been in their community, like I said. I bet they've met him, and that's why they're breaking his way. So for him to be successful on election night, we just got to make sure we're hitting our margins in outstate, which I think he's definitely going to because he's been there more than any other candidate. But then in addition to that, just kind of hold our own in Southwest Missouri.
What's Ashcroft? If you're in the Ashcroft war room, put that hat on. And tell me what on election night, what are they looking for to have a good night?
So he's got to hope that people have started to realize who Bill Igo really is, and that all that advertising that had been done a couple of weeks ago kind of showed the true colors of Bill Igo. And then he got to hope that all of his dark money over the last 2 weeks has finally come in and tried to save him, all that trial attorney money he's been getting.
Did the Ashcrofts finally found a drug dealer they like? And is that drug dealer's name Pfizer?
They find some dollars. Yeah, they found some dollars. That's for sure.
I do think if Jay Ashcroft is governor, he owes a hat tip to Pfizer, right?
I think that he owes a hat tip to quite a few people, and I guess because it's dark.
Now you were being sarcastic, but Mike Huckabee. I'm not the biggest Huckabee fan, but he is a charming dude. I lobbied in Arkansas, and he kind of got to see. Wow, I mean, I saw a different side of him than other folks have seen, but he is a nice guy. Lee Greenwood, that's freaking legit at an Ashcroft rally tonight. I mean, that's dope. I don't care who you are. Having Lee Greenwood come to your event, that's outstanding.
I think, having had
I'll give him his due, Ratliff. You know that's cool.
Yeah, I agree. It's having not been to a single Republican event that hasn't played that song like 75,000 times. Sure.
Hearing the guy sing it live is awesome.
Yeah, he's done. He did one back in 2008 for us when we used to be a battleground state back when in a national stage Missouri mattered, and I think that's why we need Mike Kehoe to make Missouri matter again on a national stage.
You worked at no. You got to give Jay and Jason and Elijah their due. Getting Lee Greenwood's freaking dope.
I will give him that and the first time in the campaign, they tried their candidate side has tried to do one simple thing, and maybe they pulled that off. I'll give him credit for that.
Now, I don't understand the Indian dude.
Career,
what's his name? Ramaswamy. I don't know who would give a shit about that. But now I do like the Lee Greenwood.
I think our state treasurer is probably happy that he's coming into town then.
Well, I think maybe our state treasurer is going to vote for Jay, but I'm just saying I don't think that guy matters anybody. I think that Lee Greenwood does. And you know me, I hate non-Missourians, but I make an exception for Lee freaking Greenwood. Like having Mike Huckabee at this point, it's been so long since he ever president stuff. I don't think that anybody really cares. But I do think Lee Greenwood, we are going to actually, Jared, give me the high sign if we're going to live stream the Lee Greenwood thing. Sweet. If you should watch it. It's good. The Lee Greenwood thing will be cool. Now if you're Igle and put aside, your prickliness, and tell me, if you're Igle, you want a low turnout and you want to win St. Louis Kansas City DMA, right?
Yes, I will say, and I've said several times, I think, before on your show, I think Sophia deserves a huge round of applause.
Absolutely.
She has ran a fantastic campaign.
See, Kelton, that's what we could get the round of applause button that other people have on that Elgato thing.
Yeah, we can, or I can just clap into the mic.
Oh, let's do that. Yeah, all right, let's do it. Yeah, always the best.
She deserves it. Yeah, Sophie has ran a great campaign. There's parts of all around the state you can go to that have a Bill Igle signs. You can drive into some of those small communities, and you might not see any other candidate sign, maybe some county candidate signs, and then you're going to see some Bill Igle. And so I think,
hey, he's got 50 down, man. I think outside of you get 45, 50 miles either way of Jeff City, Highway 50 is an Igle place.
Yep, they have done a good job at getting out that message, and I think I've seen some locations have started to they've reduced, or couple of those signs have been pulled, not a ton, but some have been pulled back because I think people are starting to realize that what comes out of Bill Eigle's mouth is often not the truth. But I think that he is done for a candidate who has spent very, very little money and is in the race still. I think, again, Sophie deserves a huge round of applause for that.
All right.
And Eigle's willingness to say pretty much whatever it takes to win. I think those two things go a long way.
Lieutenant governor race. If you're Lincoln Huff, you're looking for that Springfield DMA to come in and carry you to victory.
I think so. These down ballot statewides, when it used to be 1,000 points to break through, I think right now they're looking at 1,700 to 2,000 points to break through on any single message. I think that has gone a long way to see that it's hard to get any message out there to help anybody. And so I think what's going to be the X factor for Lincoln is the fact that he has so many endorsements from all these ag groups, all these business groups. And I think that's going to be the difference maker when these different groups send out a message to their members and say, hey, Lincoln has had our back in the state Senate. He had our back when he was in the state House. He's going to do great for us as lieutenant governor. Make sure you go vote for him. And I think in a very crowded field, that's going to be the X factor for Lincoln.
What's Wassinger? He just wants to come in, second everywhere, win the race?
I mean, he's tried to buy it. He spent a lot of his own money.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, there's not a long history of just being able to buy it and not have much of a ground game, not go anywhere. Just buying it has worked before. Let's not act like it hasn't. But usually you have to do some actual campaign.
Yeah, I think you can try to buy a race if no one else in the race has the resources to compete against you, to be an alternative to that. And that, you've got Senator Rader spending some money there, and she's obviously showing up, in the polling pretty well.
I think her ad's a great ad. I like that ad.
I've been on the road.
Beautiful woman shooting a huge gun with that accent. That's a legit ad.
I will say that a lot of people, when I'm in these different small towns, these cattleman dinners, or these fairs, they mention the ad. Now the disconnect though is they don't remember the name. They just remember there's this lady in an ad. So that she's the female on the ballot. So that could be a factor. Now is it 1%? Is it 3%? I think that's the difference we saw in the auditor's race a few years ago, that being the only female in the race that can, be a difference maker.
Top of the ballot. I think Sandra was on top of the ballot, right?
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I know in Jeff City, I think I got my sample ballot the other day, and I think we have a 4-page ballot here. I'm pretty sure. So it's going to be it's going to take a minute to vote tomorrow, and so we'll see what that means.
I actually voted last week, and I saw it was just on one big page. It was it wasn't a 8.5 by 11. It was probably 15 inches wide and probably 18 inches tall, something like that. It was a little bit wider than a legal pad sheet of paper. It was like cardstock. It had front and back, but it only had probably the top half of the ballot. And I voted on committeemen and committeewoman races too.
Yeah, there'll be
shout out to Carolyn McDowell.
Yes, here in Jeff City, I think all of our committee races are being challenged. So it's those who have shown up and worked for the party for the last 2-3 decades versus those that have moved in the last 30 days and trying to run a campaign. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I voted for Carolyn proudly.
She's amazing. She's great.
So give me a pick. Who's going to win on the lieutenant governor race?
I think Lincoln wins.
What's the margin?
I think Lincoln's going to win. I think Lincoln wins by 4 points.
Close. See, my gut is these races break hard. I don't think
with low turnout. Everyone says you're going to be low turnout elections.
It's going to be hot.
A low turnout election is going to be like a special election, right? In a special election, anything is possible. We had safe state House and state Senate races that are plus 20% our seats in the last couple of decades that have went the other way, that have went to Democrats because in that specific election they showed up, right? We've had elections that we can win or lose by 20 points in a normal primary or a normal general, but then in a special, because turnout's so low, we might win or lose by a couple of points. And I think all that's possible. It just depends on who's excited. I've heard there's a lot of crossover, I think, in this election. More than ever, I've heard that a lot of people are making sure that they're going to pull the Republican ballot because they know that this election is going to determine who's going to be our candidate, who's our next governor, who's our next lieutenant governor. And I think that's business leaders, that's ag groups, that's firefighters, that's law enforcement. All these different groups know how important the Republican primary is for the state of Missouri, and I think we're going to have higher turnout in the Republican side than we've had before, but and maybe lower turnout for the Democrat races.
So I'm looking at Jeff City tomorrow. The high is 95. I'm looking at Clayton. The high tomorrow is 96. In Poplar Bluff tomorrow, the high is 96. So it's going to be hot, miserable day. If you work for a living, are you really going to want to go stand in line after you've sweated all day to vote? Maybe you vote early. Maybe not that many people come in when it's just blazing hot, and especially if there's a line in St. Louis and Kansas City. I mean, it's one thing to work all day, go stand in line in November when you don't have a jacket on. It's another thing to go stand in line when you're out the door in the sun. I mean, that ain't, for if you're an older person, it's not even smart.
Yeah, and again, turnout. People are complaining about all the texts they've been receiving and phone calls they've been receiving. I guarantee tomorrow, every campaign is probably going to be sending out 5 or 10 texts to you, trying to get every voter to show up, make sure your voice is heard. Because I always have a rule: until people are complaining and saying, if you text me one more time or call me one more time, I'm never going to vote for your candidate. We've not pissed them off enough to get them to actually go and show up.
I agree with that. And just so you know, you can text me all you want. I've already voted. So tell me the AG's race. It feels like if there was ever a scenario where a guy could make up 10 points, it would be like if you're just going to say, let's say hypothetically, Sharp's down 10. I'd say no matter what poll you look at, a fourth of the electorate's undecided. And you just got like $6 million last week. If there was ever a perfect storm to where a candidate could make that up, you would need a high undecided, I assume. And you might need like $6 million, which he actually got. I mean, I think, I believe Bailey's the favorite, but Sharp has some of the ingredients to pull off an upset.
I think so. There's this kind of like far right slate that's been put together with Eigel and kind of the rest of his married men.
How about Denny slating up with Sharp after Bailey represented him in that crap? Is Bailey a sucker or just too nice?
I think Bailey's a genuinely nice person who served our country, and I honestly, of all the races that are out there,
kind of got sucker played on that lawsuit.
I don't disagree with that, but I am most confident that I feel the best about his right. I think he is. I came on your show 2 months ago, I think it was, and I made the point that we saw in 2016 that DC and out-of-state money can come in and try to buy an AG's race. And I think they're trying to do that again. But I think Bailey has done a fantastic job of pointing out why he is and why he should be our attorney general. And it
kind of reminds me like the Alamo. Inside the Alamo, you got Bailey and you got like Ketchmark and Holland and Singfield and maybe Dalton are the last ones. They just got to hold off a little longer. One more day. If they could just hold out, the cavalry will arrive and election day and they'll be fine. But
yeah, Missouri will finally get to pick,
so this Federalist Society,
who our candidates are.
If you're a member of that, how do you not just say you're a cuck? I mean, those National Federalist people come in, tell you what they're going to do, shove it down your throat, and you say, yes, sir, may I have another? Or they get pissed. I mean, those Federalist people are hardcore dominatrix. And if you're an honest Missourian, can you look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a Missourian and I'm in this Federalist Society where the Washington people just shove it down my throat?
I'm not sure I want to comment on anything you just said.
I'm just saying, what kind of pathetic people would let Washington folks come in, steamroll them, treat them like dog shit, and then stay in it? Good Lord.
I think there's the Missouri FedSoc, which is a lot of great people. You got Jim Bukowski, you got Stephanie
but they
Andrews,
just how do you get around? The Washington people said, do what we say right damn now. And they just, I guess we have no choice. I guess if the National Farm Bureau did that to me, I'd be about done with it. I really would be. You'd see me pissed off and saying something. Now I might stay a member, I guess, but by God, it wouldn't be without a bunch of raising hell.
I think we'll see what the reckoning is. They promised a reckoning, and I'm hoping that the reckoning comes for Missourians to choose Missouri candidates and not letting DC or foreign donors or whatever try to choose who's going to be our next governor, who's going to be our next attorney general, who's going to be our next congressman. I think Missouri
I've had a high regard for that Federalist Society and their ability to move races, help with judges. I've had a high regard for their success and their professionalism. The thing I've seen this year is just the way they treated Willard. I mean, these people just treat Missouri like shit. Like, Missouri is some shit they scrape out of the bottom. I guess they don't wear boots. They're loafers or whatever Harvard assholes wear. I mean, I have not heard a peep from Missouri. Mark Ellinger is the only person I've heard stand up and say, yes, I'm not on board. This is wrong. We're going to do something about this. I mean, the rest of them, I used to get invited to some thing they do over Christmas, and I didn't go because I like to have fun, and I'm more of a high street pub person than a Federal Society person. But I wouldn't go now, and if you invited me, I'd be pretty damned insulted. You think I'm some kind of bitch cuck?
I think we'll see come tomorrow that Missourians will get to pick who Missouri is, and then finally maybe we will no longer be a flyover state for national interest.
I wish they would fly over us and just not stop at all. They just dump money in here, and look, there's nothing wrong with supporting Will Sharp, but all these Concord and all this other stuff is just Federal Society stuff, and most Federal Society people I know in Missouri are not supporting what they're told to do. But they don't say anything. They just take it.
I think there are several. You said, Mark. I think Stephanie's the same way. I think Jen's the same way. They're not supporting what FedSoc tells them to do. They're supporting Andrew because they know who Andrew is, and they know he has done the job.
Maybe they should start their own group of lawyers, like Missouri lawyers with a spine. That might be a good kind of anti-Federal Society thing to start, and then I think we should build a wall. Right on the river, but on the west coast of the Mississippi, and keep all those foreign assholes out of here.
I'm okay that I love Missouri.
Treasurer's race got nasty. I really thought it would get here before, but then I saw it was the funniest thing. I saw Sam Page's lackey, the Republican that does his stuff for him, Trachis, wrote some letter to get a story out. I'm like, Lauren Traeger, you're smarter than that. It was good work by the consultants, but I saw the Cody Smith campaign. It got pretty dark this weekend. I honestly thought this would happen a month ago, and I think if he comes up short, it's because he didn't go here a month ago.
Yeah, I got the text of the ad that they put together. It's a good ad. I think if enough voters see it, it could swing that election a little bit to get them to finally realize the real record there.
My favorite one is the one that sends out the dirty racist shit and then sends out the Jesus quote next.
There are a lot of texts. I think voters are getting bombarded with text right now.
Well, they usually send out the Jesus tweet right before they send out the real racist mean text. I look, I'm German. I'm not surprised by much. I am surprised if Cody was in this to win this, he didn't go down this road earlier.
Well, I mean,
this was the only way he was going to win, right? Is go dirty, racist, dark arts, hardcore. And he did it the last weekend, not the last month.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't Cody. It was his pack first.
Oh, God. Jesus. John Ratliff. You are the most pragmatic person. If John Ratliff heard John Ratliff say that, he would be pissed off.
Well, I will say it's a state level campaign, so it's a little bit different than federal rules, but still Cody is a man, I guarantee, who follows it 100% of the time. So I guarantee he probably had absolutely no clue what was going on when that happened.
No clue.
But you can see Cody, he's been out. He's working hard.
Kelton, I think luckily we have a button for such statements.
There you go.
That was bullshit. From like the least bullshit person I know. I honestly think you might be the least bullshit person that I have in my phone. And then you just drop that load of horse shit on me.
I don't think Cody, because that's just not who Cody is. He's not a negative person. He's 8 years in the House. He never said a negative thing. He doesn't do that. That's not who he is. That's why I honestly don't believe, he probably had a clue about that. Other campaigns, I would imagine they do. Cody, I'd honestly be surprised.
Okay, cool. So the Cody Smith campaign sent out a bunch of mean, racist shit. I thought they should have done it sooner.
I think, you go around, is kind of surprising. You'll see Keo signs are up everywhere. You'll see a Lincoln Hub sign up everywhere. A lot of it's in CD3. You're going to see a Kurt Schaefer sign up, and then I'm starting to see a lot of Vivek signs up in a lot of places. And I think
You know where you're seeing the Vivek signs. Just say it. Just say where you're seeing the Vivek signs.
You've seen him in a lot of places that he probably has a strong connection with.
Where are you?
The
what?
Small
What?
business.
All right, Ratliff, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Owners.
What businesses are you seeing the most signs of Vivek Malik in front of?
I think there are a lot of petroleum marketers and hotel owners that are supporting
Malik. I agree with you. So give me a prediction in that race.
I don't know if Cody was able to get across the finish line enough that right now I'm very surprised by this, but I think Vivek's going to pull it off.
I really thought the only way to keep Vivek from winning this race was to do what they've done the last 3 days for about 3 weeks. Because I'm with you, a message is so hard to get through, and a nasty message like this goes faster, much easier to get through. It'll be interesting to me to see if, what normally I would think you'd need a full-throated venom, if a little venom is enough in one of these down races. All right, let's talk about
done it on social media. That ad that they was running has ran it for 3 weeks on social media. Probably put $30,000 behind it, and then sent out some version of that spot via text for the last 3 weeks. I think the race would have been much, much different. The question is enough to break here at the end with low turnout. I just don't think so. There are people that are strongly supporting Vivek that I was surprised by. Yeah.
Secretary of State Trish, what a mess, right? I mean,
it's going to be a very low turnout. Everyone is kind of pulling within the same
Can Valentina win?
No, I think there are some people who are interested in just watching it burn to see. I think if she was the only female candidate on the ballot, maybe that would have been a thing. But I think obviously that's not the case here, so that's going to split that up a little bit. Can
the margin get small enough for Shane to win? Can the victory number be low enough that he can win?
Yeah, I mean, Shane, there's a little bit. It's much different than the Ashcroft name, obviously, but there's a little bit of residual, right? There's something like when they go down, if no one's been able to break through.
He's such a good guy too. I mean, if you actually have met Shane, he's just such a good dude.
Yeah, I think I posted this the other day on Facebook that I said, obviously I'm supporting Dean. I've gotten to know Dean a lot over the last 9 years. Him and Rebecca are really good people. I think Dean got a bad rap. Every Trump supporter out there, everyone who thinks that President Trump got a raw deal with all the kind of the witch hunt that he had to go through for the last several years. If you think that's what happened with President Trump, then you should 100% be supporting Dean Plotker because he took on the Jeff City swamp and he actually
did Dean commit to that message and really sink that message?
I think Dean talked a lot about it. It's hard right now. The one thing that kind of all the bureaucrats in Jeff City were successful in doing is they did a good job of drying up his fundraising for the last 8 months. I mean, they made that the only damage they really did was they made us spend money and stop raising money. And I think that was the damage done there. But he's the only one by far and above that's up on TV, that's up on Ray. We've been up on Ray for 3 weeks. He's been up on TV. The problem is, as I said earlier in the show, it takes about 1,700 points to break through right now. And, most of these markets we're playing in around, 1,000 to 1,200. And so is that enough? I will say I've been to, as we've been going to these different fairs and dinners and stuff, I consistently hear I don't really know. I've seen the stuff. I've heard the stuff about Dean Plotker. I've seen the Dean Plotker ad. They don't really know what they're going to be because I don't think, again, not enough of that message is penetrated. And everyone probably gets the Mike Carter text 5 or 6 times a day because he just blasts them out constantly. So you've been getting those. I just got right before I went on your show here, I got one from Jamie Corley. So there's a text out from there. So she's trying to do a little bit of that. I got Mary Elizabeth. So everyone's kind of shooting.
How does Mary Elizabeth win?
They spent a lot of money in her state Senate race. So does she have enough name ID out of the St. Louis DMA? I didn't really see a ton of effort on the Missouri Right to Life stuff, not Missouri Right to Life, but some of the pro-life groups haven't pushed her like I kind of thought they would. Obviously, Missouri Right to Life with Denny, but I thought maybe some of the other groups, because she's been such an advocate on that issue, that they would have done more for her. So I think that didn't do it. Denny's going a lot of places, but again, he's not up on media to really break through. You could go to every one of these kind of Lincoln Day kind of grassroots type events, and you're going to make an impact. Maybe that's worth 3% of something, but is it enough? And I don't know. he obviously is strong in the Kansas City DMA. The polling has always showed that. I think that's what shows him as high as he has been, simply because of the amount of, both of his state Senate districts, or his time in state Senate, he had to spend money doing some advertising there. So he's a little bit of residual, but everyone in this race is looking at 15%, 13%, all very, very small. And so it just comes down to name ID. When someone walks into the polling booth and they don't really know anyone, they don't know a lot about any of the candidates on there, ballot placement could be a part of it. Being a female on the ballot, that's part of it. But it's, can they even have a slight memory of that name? And I think that is the best chance for Shane, is that he ran before, actually doesn't have a ton of name ID. We polled it, and I thought he'd have a lot more out of Southwest Missouri. It's not nearly as strong as you would think. Or you would, if I was a Shane campaign, I would hope. But he definitely has a path. I think most of those candidates in that race actually have a path, simply because of the fact that it's kind of a jump ball for everyone.
All right,
But
you're working with
knowing
Dean.
all that,
If Dean doesn't win, who wins?
I think if Dean doesn't win, it's a jump ball between Hoskins and Shane.
Yeah. How well does Bill have to do for Denny to win?
So that's a question for all of them, is like, do they vote as a slate? And that's going to play for the treasurer's race. That will play for the, Lori Rooks is out there doing a lot in that treasurer's race. Do they vote as a slate or not? And I haven't really seen, from social media perspective, that they have done kind of, that slate has done a good enough job, as good as they kind of did before in all the state Senate races. Have they done a good enough job of making that slate real? And I just don't think that they have.
All right, let's go around the state Senate map real quick, and I'll let you get back to what I'm sure is a busy day. Let's start in the corner. Hudson and Travis. It felt like that race is tightened up here at the end.
It was. So about 2 weeks ago, Brad was starting to close. There was a chunk, because he's kind of got more of a base there out of Taney and Stone, and he was doing well. But I think over the last 2 weeks, the Smith campaign has started to inform voters more about Brad's voting record, some of the things that he did while he was their state rep, or the 20-year bureaucrat before that. And so I think they've started to see a little bit more about that. And so the question is, does the Brad Hudson base there at Stone and Taney, is it enough to kind of take out or compete with all of the eastern part of that district, which is kind of quite a bit different than Stone and Taney? They're more lake people versus kind of ag guys, rural community people. Travis has done really well with that. I think both candidates have really high favorability right now, and the question is who could drive up the negatives of the other fast enough. Because Travis was ahead in that race kind of this whole time before the negatives started, I think he's still going to be able to close and hold back.
But over in Cape, you've got Dinkins, Turner, Berger. It feels like the old Roy Blunt line. I'd rather be ours than them, or them than us. I think I'd rather be Travis. I think I'd rather be Jamie. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think so. Jamie's, that their area down there a lot. Like with Cape people want a Cape candidate, but they don't really have that option from the real world. The true Cape people are going to kind of they'll stick with Turner. That race has gotten really nasty down there. Obviously, you have two candidates that aren't from Cape that are kind of slugging it out with each other. But I think Chris has ran a fantastic campaign. She's worked really hard. Education reform has come in really big for her. And I think Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Berger, you feel a little burned, right? I mean,
I think there are a lot of candidates around the state who feel a little burned right now.
I actually think you're going to see some folks. I think an education bill is going to be harder to pass after the way the education reform folks have handled this summer. I think there's some understanding if this is such a big vote, biggest vote ever, and you go vote for it, or like Jamie, you bring other people around, and then they give you the shaft. I think win or lose, I think there's going to be some. It almost is probably better for education reform if they lose in the 27th, because if they beat Jamie, I mean, everybody else is going to look around and say, well, what's the point of what kind of church can't have converts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest.
It's like a sect of eunuchs doesn't grow the sect, right? Because
I'm an education reform person myself. I've supported it. I've always been a champion for education reform. I have to say that I'm a little disappointed how these primaries have shaken out from some of the efforts of kind of everyone who was on the team. That bill had zero margin for error. All these guys voted for it. I'm all about loyalty to those that have always been with you, but I also, to your point, you got to be willing to support people who come on, who join the team when you really need them. I'm
Or why
disappointed
should
in how that's
anybody
shaken
ever
out,
join the team? Right?
and
It's
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 gonna
almost
make
how
the
Missouri
job
Right to
that
Life does things. If you ever don't vote on every single thing you're told to vote on, you're excommunicated. Like,
yep.
there's no difference in what they did in IP reform. They're going to support what they're going to support. If you've ever even said maybe, or if when they said jump, if you didn't say it, not only how high, but how high could I please do it, ma'am? I mean, so let's move on up. Feels like Henderson's in a good place.
Yep, there's been some nasty attacks here in the last 72 hours on that in that district, but Mike has always been up double digits, and I think he's going to close out strong. I like Cindy, and I like Mike a lot, but I think Mike's going to win by quite a bit.
Roll up to the St. Louis suburbs. I would assume Gregory does well. If they shoot at him enough, I assume Harder has a base vote there.
He does seem to have there all these races. It gets to the end here gotten fairly nasty. That one too. There's a lot of back and forth accusations and texting and kind of like some questionable mail and things have happened in that race. I think it's going to come down to the harder grassroots versus the resources that David's always been able to put together to see who can pull that across the finish line. And it's kind of true for a lot of these races all around, right? Who decides who shows up? I think Gregory has done what is necessary to secure that victory. And if I had to guess today, I think he wins.
Probably the dirtiest race, maybe the dirtiest race I've ever seen. The 23rd, Schnelting and Chris Finelli. I am not the person that says, "Oh, you gave a check to this person, so you own all the awful things they've ever done." I don't buy that kind of stuff. Take the personalities out of it. I do think Matt has been able to support some candidates for state senate that have been very loyal to trial attorneys, but they have not had to own some of the things that are probably not socially acceptable in a boardroom in Clayton. However, I think this will be the race. Schnelting it's been so homophobic, so incredibly over the top. And when Matt has been led by, Brett Emerson is a top guy. Now, Amy Gunn is not just one of the top trial attorneys not in the state. She's not just one of the top attorneys in St. Louis overall. She's one of the leading citizens in St. Louis. I just wonder if she's thrilled with what an organization that she's the head of has paid for there. That stuff is just straight homophobic. I have I know a lot of people involved in MATA. I have a hard time thinking they're thrilled with what they're paying for.
Yeah, I was surprised that race went there, that people are willing, to your point, those who are paying for all that are willing to let it go there. And I've had this conversation with Sharon and Matta before. Like, do you really support, is your single issue that you could probably win some converts on, are they worth kind of going against everything, as every other value that I believe your members have? How can you justify supporting some of these candidates?
But I'll tell you this, though, the tort reform guys were ruthless with them, too. It is a ruthless fight. The tort reform folks passed some, I think in hindsight, some extreme laws a few years ago. So the MATA, I can't buck their overall strategy because, every year they were coming at them with all they had. They developed a new strategy. I think you have to admit it's been successful.
I agree.
I think the Schnelting thing is the first. They've been on this amazing run of hit in the face every year to now nobody can pass anything. This is something I don't think anybody with any sense wants to be anywhere near.
You've listened to the Freedom Caucus sit on the Senate floor and say some pretty outrageous things for several years now, and those people are almost all exclusively backed by MATA, and so I
haven't seen any blowback. I've seen no blowback on any firm. I've seen, I guess, in the general public consciousness, I've never seen anybody really attach MATA to it. So let's say Mike Moon comes out. Mike says some stuff that I don't think would get you a lot of friends at the St. Louis Club on Forsyth, right? I don't think at Cafe Napoli, a lot of things Mike Moon says is going to get you a lot of high fives, going to get you a lot of what the hell. I do think that they've been able to navigate those waters very successfully. Let's be honest, the business guys give to the same folks, the same type of folks here. Let's not say that there's angels. But when you have a candidate almost exclusively funded by one interest group, and it is just over the top homophobic. I'm from the boot heel, and I'm like, holy shit. It is it is the nastiest race I've ever seen, and I just wonder if there's going to be some discussions of, okay, we're going to have to fund some of these right wing guys, no problem. They're going to say some embarrassing stuff. Maybe we don't want to be part of quite straight up homophobic bizarro stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a real question you have to come out. And I think maybe some of the business groups and MATA itself will have to do a little bit of looking, soul searching after this to say, is this what our politics needs to be today? And I hope the answer to that is no, and that we'll go away from it. I was asked to be involved in that campaign. I'm not involved in any of those races. And a year ago, that was part of the conversation that they wanted to talk about. And I said, I will never be a part of a campaign that has those conversations. Not my values, and I don't think that's what's good for our politics.
And look, I understand you're going to say stuff like that. There's ways campaigns use homophobia that has been absurd in the past. It's 2024. This is stuff that I think would have raised eyebrows 25 years ago, much less today. I do think there's going to be some discussions. And if I'm mad, I'm like, by damn, the business community, don't get sanctimonious with me, assholes, because they funded the same type stuff. But I do think there are people in MATA that have a social conscience that's greater than what I've seen displayed in the 23rd district. And I think it's going to be even, there's an old George Jones song, "The Winner Loses On." I think for the school choice folks, losing some of these races where they've came at people that they asked for support a few weeks ago, then came against. I think if they win, all's forgotten. I think if they lose, they wave that bloody shirt. Speaking of the 21st, the most interesting race to me is you go from the Kansas City suburbs all the way to Boonville. Is it going to be an urban or is it going to be a rural seat?
I think Curtis Gregory is going to win that. He's stayed up in the polling. Again, I'm not involved in that race at all, but he stayed up in the polling for quite a while there.
Truman's liking it.
When we need, as a Mizzou guy, as a true son, we need Curtis Gregory in the state senate without a doubt. He's
telling me he likes you.
He has been everywhere. He has worked even the smallest event. I'll show up. Gregory, I've seen him in the back of trucks at the rodeo, ride back on horseback. He's done all kinds of things. He's out everywhere. I think from a state senate campaign, he's probably worked the hardest. And in that district, in these small communities like that, showing up, being part of their local fair or picnic, things like that, I think that matters. And he's still raised the resources to get his message out on radio. He's dropped the mail. He has ran a fantastic campaign. And I think if you get to know Doug and you get to know Curtis, both good guys, but I think Curtis does a much better job connecting to the voters of the 21st.
I think the only thing I can think of that is
I'm gonna need you to play that song later. We need that for CD3. Mizzou needs a congressman like Kurt
I'm
Schaefer
gonna do
as well.
I'm gonna do the Schaefer thing, but Truman says you have tickets to any game except the Oklahoma game. He's given out all those. You talked to Dusty about that. But now let me come back here. Now we have Missouri State's Bear. You don't have Cliff Smart anymore. That sucks for you, buddy. I would keep Cliff around if I were you. Last two things. This guy says Doug Ritchie's a great politician. This guy says the charter school monies came in for him. This guy, the Missouri State folks say there's a lot of folks in Clay County. They're pretty crazy.
So the part over there is, I think, Curtis and I had this conversation not too long ago. He was over in Clay County, like North Liberty, in those different communities over there, thinking that he's going into his opponent's base and it was going to be harder to connect with voters. And I think Curtis has done a fantastic job connecting over. And that's why the polling has consistently shown him ahead because he's just a good guy.
The Bear's saying bullshit. He's saying there's no way. He's saying Clay County is going to be strong for Doug. Truman sucks, and he thinks you're totally wrong.
Well, I've never listened to a Greene County Community College Bear, so.
Oh, shot right at you. Dang. Oh, he says they don't have protests at Missouri State. That's what he did.
Probably because they can't spell protests.
Oh, no, dude, he got you again. Oh, great. All right, let's put these away. So give me a prediction in an amount in that race. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Give me a prediction and an amount there. I was going to try to pull Missouri State Bison. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, because they can't win anything. I think that he's probably going to win by. I think he's up by
girls
7.
basketball counts.
I think he wins by at least 7.
See, I think all these races break hard like that. I think there'll all be some. All right, this congressional race. I thought Kurt was really on pace to win this thing. Then Trump got involved. Then Hicks dropped out. Not things you wanted to see happen. They weren't in the campaign plan. How does Kurt win this with the Trump endorsement? Oh, I got to tell you the story. Guys, so my son watches a lot of YouTube, right? So we were at the Cole County Fair Friday night walking around, and he still had his iPad for some reason. We get out of the truck. He goes, Dad, you know Bob Onder? And I'm like, yeah, I do. How do you know Bob Onder? He goes, I don't understand. I heard he's Trump's worst nightmare. Then I heard Trump supports him. And this is, I swear to God, there's no way to make this up. An 8-year-old little boy who could give a damn, but he's around politics enough. He's met these guys enough. He gets it. He did not connect Kurt that I could tell. But he just on his own said, Dad, they said Bob Onder is Trump's worst nightmare. Then they said Trump supports him. He's like, what's up? And I'm like, well, kind of both, I think, you know. So I was amazed. The only place he could have saw that YouTube. There's no other place he gets information. So I was amazed at your strategy there. Has that just been we just execute our plan?
I think so. You know, that's kind of had a multi approach. And again, federal rules. I have nothing to do with what the PAC does. But I would say
federal rules are legit.
They are very legit. Knowing
state rules.
The angles between, you know, I think without you know, the tweet from President Trump, this race is over. We will win massively, far and above. You know, I think the thing that matters most is a couple of things. One, Kurt's the only candidate, the only major candidate who actually lives in the district, and I think that message has been getting out there a lot. I think the fact that he's endorsed by every major ag commodity group, real people in the third, not just, you know, groups, but actual members. We've got the AFL. We have all the labor endorsements as well, because they know that Kurt's going to go and actually care about the people of the third district. And then I think the most important endorsement that we've gotten, and it shows up in the polling and it shows up, you know, in the messaging, it shows up when you talk to people, is that we have Congressman Luchtemeyer's endorsement. You know, Blaine's favorability right now in the district's about 78%, right?
Oh, you got Truman's back. He's like 78%. You say 78?
Yeah, he has crazy high favorability, and he is all in. He has been the entire time for Kurt, because he knows how important it is for Central Missouri. He knows how important it is for the third as a whole. He knows how important it is for Mizzou.
It is important. You think Kurt wins?
I do think he wins. And I also think, and the reason I think that
you are like a walking billboard for Kurt too. Everywhere you go. Have you washed that shirt this week?
I've washed it a lot. I'm not saying it doesn't smell bad still, but I have washed it a lot. We walked on a lot of parades. It's been pretty hot.
One of my favorite people to talk politics with. Hey, if we get some time tomorrow night, could we grab you for 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, just text me.
Election night in Missouri kicks off. What's the time? So we're at 1:00. So whatever math I just did, take an hour off all of it when we started this. Polls open. Now we're down to 11, 6, 17 more hours, and then polls open up. And we will tonight, Missouri time streaming. We're going to be at the Ashcroft event with Lee Greenwood and some other people. Probably, I assume. Really, what he should do is just have Lee Greenwood sing and Ashcroft and his wife staying on stage. That'd be their move. I mean, I guess let Huckabee talk for a minute, but just have Lee Greenwood bust out a couple, close it, nice tight rally, fireworks, and out. I think Jarrett would like that because he'll be home earlier. We'll be back here. Let's have lunch here tomorrow, guys. The last midweek update of the cycle, and then again, election night in Missouri. Go to anywhere you watch this show. You can watch Election Night in Missouri. John, thank you. We'll see you all then.
Yep. See you. Thanks.